Like, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? So I went on again. And I did the same thing I've probably done every time and with the same results. Well, sort of. It's a longer story than that. Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. So, like I said, Ambleside Online. It's something I've looked at several times, and I've always been like, nah, this isn't for me. But recently, I've been doing a little bit of deeper digging, trying to figure out if there are pieces I can use, or if I want to use the whole thing, or what I do or don't, and why or why not I want to use it. So, we're going to talk about today. I'm going to kind of walk you through the process that I've been going through as I've been looking at it and what I've decided. Um, if you tuned into my last video, I was sharing a little bit about my homeschooling style and how I've been doing some readings and books comparing Charlotte Mason and the classical traditions and what pieces of each of those I kind of want to incorporate. I was kind of reevaluating a little bit of my homeschool style, which I would say I still lean classical, but definitely I want to pull some of those Charlotte Mason philosophies in. And so I had originally planned to make this video and that video one longer video. And as I was doing it, I was like, no, these are two separate videos. I know I'm talking Charlotte Mason philosophy and Ambleside Online to Charlotte Mason, but these are really two separate things I'm talking. So if you're interested and not interested in kind of seeing what I've been thinking and my thought process on homeschooling style, specifically Charlotte Mason classical, check that video out. But today is Ambleside. So, like I said, I have looked at Ambleside like 3 times, more or less, I don't know, somewhere 3 or 4, 2 or 3 times in the past. I've seen people really love it, and I'm like, oh, I should go check it out. What are they loving about this so much? And every time I go on, I've looked at it a little bit and gone, no, I'm just not connecting. I wasn't resonating with it. Something wasn't connecting the way it worked. I just be like, I don't get it. I don't quite get what people are loving about this so much. And so I've just dismissed it, which is fine. Moved on, looked to something else. But recently I've seen a couple of people, and one YouTuber that I follow in particular, Mary Barfield, has been moving into Ambleside Online, getting really excited about it. And she's somebody who I feel like I think similarly to her in a lot of ways. She was really on board with a lot of the classical things that I really like. And some of the things that she's mentioned in her homeschooling philosophy and her goals, I really like some of them. Now, we're not the same people, and there's definitely some differences. But when she was considering, I was like, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? So I went on again. And I did the same thing I've probably done every time and with the same results. Well, it's a longer story than that. I did the same thing I've done every time. And that is I went on to the years that would apply to my children as they are now, or maybe the next year. So that would be year 0, year 1. And I looked at their list. And I kind of had the same thought I always have. I'm like, no. So a lot of the books, some of the books on there, I don't really want to use. A lot of the books maybe we already read, or um, it's just not what I was going for. And so I was like, I just still, it just isn't what I'm leaning towards. But then, and I don't remember why I did this, I found their download for their entire book list from years 0 to 12, all in one spreadsheet, just list of books. And so I downloaded that and I was looking through that. And as I got into the higher grades, upper elementary, middle, and especially high school, middle to high school, I was like, man, these are good books. Oh my goodness. Yes, I would love to use some of these books. Wow. And that got my wheels turning a little bit because I was like, okay, I definitely like some of these books. Like I'm seeing the quality and the type of literature they're choosing and going, oh yeah. And in fact, I own a lot of the books on their list. So that got me thinking, maybe I can use part of Ambleside Online. So I'm definitely not going with all Ambleside Online. I'm not full on Charlotte Mason in style or in the way I teach or methods maybe. But I would love to pull in some of those really good recommendations that they have and utilize that in a way. So let's break it down into what I'm actually thinking of using. First, history. I don't want to use history the way they have it laid out. And let me actually caveat that. A lot of these things, their lists, the books that I'm going to be using or subjects I'm incorporating, I will not be doing according to their schedule. So especially in history, this will be the most prominent because Ambleside Online does a history. It's a 6-year cycle, whereas classical history, which I really want to follow, and there's a very good reason for that, which I will share, does 4-year cycles. So Ambleside Online has 2 6-year cycles. Classical has 3 4-year cycles. And so if I use some of the recommendations for history, which they had really good books, and I want to use some of those books, I can't do it the way they have it laid out because it just won't fit within the time frame I'm trying to cover these subjects. And one of the reasons I really want to stick to that 4-year cycle is one, it gives more time to ancient history. Ambleside Online just like has half a year for some ancient, but they don't really dive into it. And I want to do more. And I really want to start from the beginning, which Ambleside Online, I want to say they start with like England's history, like medieval ages, whereas I want to start in the beginning with ancient and work sequentially through. But my biggest reason for wanting to stick, sorry, but like an itch in my back, for wanting to stick to that 4-year history cycle is that my older two children, I'll be doing history with them together. They'll be both just jumping into the same year and we'll be going through. And then when my youngest joins in, he's exactly 4 years behind. He will be. And so he will be able to jump in when we hit ancients in what'll be 5th grade. He will be jumping into 1st grade in ancients. And then we'll be bowling medieval, early modern, and modern. And so while they'll be covering different books, they'll all be in the same time period in history, which I think will be great, not required by any means, but great for family discussions, and we'll all be immersed in the same things. I think it'll make it easier for me to teach because I'll be familiar and already doing everything in that time period. And I just really like how that has laid out for our family. So I want to keep the 4-year cycles history. As a result, I'm having to take Ambleside's book recommendations for history, which, like I said, they have some really good ones I do want to incorporate. I love the living history, just the more story format they focus on. But I'm going to take their books and reschedule it into my 4-year cycle, which means that some books will have to be squished down into a shorter period instead of covering over several years. But I also have a whole nother cycle of history than Ambleside Online have. They have 2 cycles. So I can take some of those book recommendations and use them, and then I can save some of the others for my next cycle in history rather than having to cram it all into one. So it'll take some work for me to figure out how I want to do that, but I'm pulling and kind of rearranging and reordering how I want to use their book. So I'm kind of going into like the first 4 years of Ambleside Online and taking their history recommendations and figuring out which ones apply to what time frames in history, and then taking the ones that apply to the time frames I want to use and figuring out which ones are age appropriate and which ones I want to use from there. So, like I said, not using it as they intended, but definitely incorporating a lot of their history reads. Another section I really want to incorporate is their literature. They have some great literature reads. And again, I will not be using all of it. I don't plan to do Shakespeare with my elementary school kids. I don't plan to do some of the Greek mythology that they recommend or Greek mythological based stories. So I'll be taking the ones that I like, but there's a large chunk of them that I would like to use and incorporate as read alouds or assigned reading. And along with that, their free read recommendation, which is essentially their read alouds or assigned reading, but they call them free reads. I want to go through those book lists and look at their recommended list because they have so many good books on there that even the ones I haven't heard about, I'm interested in researching at this point. So I definitely want to incorporate their history recommendations, though in a different format. I want to incorporate their literature and their free reads. And again, those will be in a different time frame as well. I won't necessarily use them all in the years they recommend because I would really like to pair the books that apply to certain time periods along with that cycle of history. So we'll have to move those around a little bit as well. Another one that I would like to incorporate a little bit out is some of their geographical reads. So they use a lot of the Hauling books, which I know kids love and a lot of people really enjoy. So I may incorporate a few of those. And Charlotte Mason wrote like an elementary geography book that they recommend kind of using. I don't plan to move away entirely from what we're doing in geography now with a workbook, but I do want to incorporate some of those maybe alongside it, kind of as a group thing. And then lastly, I'm going to be borrowing some from their, I think what they call their riches. And that would be their poetry, their art study, their music study, hymn study, handicrafts. Now, I'm not going to do all of it. I'm not a handicrafts person, so that one's pretty much out already. But I'd already intend to do some sort of art and music study at some point, and I'm already doing like a poetry tea time with my kids. So what I want to do, because Ambleside does have all of these art pictures recommended and links to them where you can access them already laid out for you, links to music. So I feel like a lot of the work's done if I use their resources. What I want to do is take our poetry tea time that we already do, and 1 week, I want to make it poetry. And 1 week, I want to make it art and music study. And 1 week, I want to do hymn study. And I'm going to rotate through, which means I won't use everything that's in their recommended list. But I will pick my so I think they have 3 composers and 3 artists for the first year that you study one per term. What I'm going to do is I'll use those 3 artists and 3 composers, and I'll just pick my favorites rather than using all of the ones that they have listed, because I'll be using about a third as much as they will, since I'll be rotating through every couple of weeks a different thing. So I'll pick my favorite 3 from each, and that will be within our year. And then poetry, they have a anthology of poems assigned that you just read one a day in the morning. I'll probably use that because it's free if you download their PDF or use their online. No, they have it online, and I've copied it into a document and formatted it for me. So I'll use one a day of that. Um, Otherwise, I don't really plan to incorporate their science or natural history, nature study, Bible. We have our own thing going. Um, some of their biographical reads, which I kind of consider literature or history, I will definitely be using some of those. So I think really I'm using them for book recommendations, for history and biographical recommendations, and for ease of access with some of that art and music and poetry study. And when I do a deeper dig into their site and into the further years, not just the like kindergarten, first grade levels, I do see that they have a lot of good quality material on there. And I'm able to see more why people are so all out for them and why there's so many people who really, really love them and why people do choose to use them. I can totally understand that. I am not going with them exclusively, but I do appreciate the resource that they supply. And I'm really excited about some of the books that I've gotten from them, especially some of the history picks and stuff like that. And I'm really excited to start incorporating those into our homeschool as we move forward. So there you have it. There you have kind of my journey. I don't even know if you could call it journey. My progress into dabbling in Ambleside Online. We'll just say that. Um, if you have used Ambleside Online or have considered using it, I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know why you're using it, why you're not using it, what your favorite things that you used through them have been. Anything, let me know. Spam me in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And I look forward to being able to make some more content for you guys soon. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week.